everyone, Miss Coomer here with your online art class. This week we will be looking at famous French artist Paul Cezanne. Cezanne, who lived from 1839 to 1906, was very interested in painting the world around him. He studied mountainous landscapes and even the food in his kitchen table. Today, I want you guys to set up a small still life with food at your house. I will be using some fruit. Make sure to ask your parents what food you're allowed to use. So after we've decided what to use, it's time to set up our still life. Place the objects in a way that looks interesting to you. Once you start drawing, you should not move any of your objects, so make sure it looks really good. This is how artists had to work before they had cameras. If you wanted to draw something realistically, you had to sit in front of it and draw it. Now, if you find it difficult to just look at the object and draw it, go ahead and take a picture. I did. Ready to start drawing? Alright guys, so I just have a piece of paper to get started. Use a pencil to do your drawing. I've got my Sharpie so that you can see my lines, but later on I'm going to be coloring with crayon. You can use whatever coloring material you want. That can be markers, crayons, colored pencils, paint, oil pastels, whatever you have, feel free to use it. Now, I'm actually really happy that I took a picture of mine because my workspace is really small. So you might also be in my situation where if I had my still life set up over here, I wouldn't be able to really fit my paper on my table. So taking a photograph is always something that is really helpful. I always just draw a little bit better from a photograph too. Okay. So you're going to start drawing your objects about middle of the paper, okay? So even though you guys can see my stuff is sort of sitting on my table, I don't want to start drawing at the very bottom of my paper. I want to give it some space, okay? So let's start with my apples. Apples are what shape? Circles, right? Sometimes they can look a little funky, a little different from a circle, but they're generally circles, okay? So let's start with, I'll do my 3 apples first before I do my banana. Whoop, that's why you use a pencil, right? Then I can go ahead, draw in like my little stem that I have. Sort of got a little detail there. And then my banana sort of comes in, hooks around. It's got this irregular end. Got a couple little spots on it too. And then you guys can see if I want to capture my detail really well, if I sort of zoom in, you can see I have a 4th apple in there, and that line just sort of happens right there. Okay, so I've drawn my fruit, but they're sort of floating, so I want to give them a nice table to sit on, and that just means I'm going to draw one line over here and one line over here. And now they're not floating anymore. Okay, so guys, we're going to be coloring our fruit realistically. You can do whatever color you want for like the surface or the table that they're sitting on. But then in the background, I want you to do some sort of a pattern. Now, if I were to do just like giant polka dots, it's a pattern, but it might blend in too much with my apples. They're already big circles. So maybe I'll try to find something that is going to look good with my circle, but doesn't resemble like the main focus of my drawing so much. I'll do some zigzag stripes. So remember, that's happening above your table line, above your surface line. And we'll be coloring those in later too. And And guys, when you're laying out your still life and designing what it's going to look like, I had my objects out in front of me, but you could take pictures from above. You could take pictures from sort of at an angle below. Really make it your own. So long as you're taking those objects and setting them up in an interesting way, you're on the right track. All right, so it's time to color. So I've got my crayons out, and notice I didn't put my photograph away because even though I know that apples are red and bananas are yellow, I will probably, if I look closely at that photograph, notice some small details or some small variations or differences in color. And those sorts of details, guys, that is what makes our artwork look realistic and not cartoony. So if I sort of zoom in over here on this apple, I see red, but you know what? I also see some yellow. I see some orange. I see some really cool like little speckles on there. I also see some shadow. So over here, there's sort of this like C shape of shadow on my apple. Okay, so I'm going to try and capture all of that. And that just means I'm going to look from my picture to my drawing, from my picture to my drawing over and over again to make it as realistic and match as much as possible. You guys can see I'm well on my way to finishing this. Something I want you to think about: if your still life has a shadow on the table, take a nice dark color. It can be a blue, it can be a purple, it can also be black. Draw that shadow in. It's probably going to go right underneath your objects. Maybe come out a little bit like it does over here. And then guys, when it comes to your background, find a color. Remember how when we talked about patterns in the background, we talked about not blending in too much with your objects. Don't let your colors blend in either. So I've already used plenty of reds, purples, and pinks. So maybe I'll choose a couple of colors here that I have not had a chance to use yet. All right, guys, I hope you have fun with this. I'm going to keep coloring. Have a great week. Thanks, guys. Bye.